This show is sponsored by Lila Arboretum Society. In the garden. I'm Guy Gogol, and today we're at Dave and Ann Kaynor's garden, and you're in for a real treat. This one is full of beautiful, beautiful perennials and specimen shrubs and specimen trees, and there's just a lot to see here. So let's go in the garden. I like the mailbox. I think that's really neat, and your clematis is blooming on it. I see you've got balloon flowers. Have you ever cut your balloon flowers back before they budded?
No, I haven't. I haven't tried that yet.
I
You did, so.
Somebody told me to do it over in the arboretum garden, one of the gardens that I take care of, and it just I could hardly cut,
Really?
and it kept them a little bit shorter
Right.
because they were flopping on the sidewalk,
Okay.
and it worked.
Oh,
Yours are in the middle of the bed. You don't have anything to worry
no,
about.
I guess I hadn't thought about that. No. And they do seem to grow all over the place. So that's what
Yes.
I love about them.
And we've got several different varieties in that bed that I take care of, and some of them reseed and the others don't.
Oh, okay.
And it surprised me. I that one would and one wouldn't. I thought they were all the same.
Right.
And let's see. What's the tall plant there that isn't in bloom?
This guy here,
Yeah.
that might be a goldenrod.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
some
It
of that
does look
scattered.
like a goldenrod, and I've got some in my garden.
Yeah, they're scattered around. We have milkweed because we already have 2 caterpillars over there, and last year we watched the caterpillars turn into monarchs. So we make sure we always have some swamp weed plant in this flower bed.
Okay. You want to look on the other side of the driveway now, and let's. These beds are very welcoming. Do you get a lot of stop and go traffic here?
I do. I even have guys that walk by when I'm weeding, which is kind of funny, and they'll go, "Great yard," or whatever, and then runners and walkers who say they love to come by and see what's growing at different times of the months and things like the seasons. So it's been fun to listen to people talk about that.
Yeah, and this is Joe Pieweed.
Joe Pieweed, and he seeded from plants that I had growing more in the center of the garden, and he looks great, so I'm leaving him there.
Yeah, it looks really
It
good.
does, yep.
And there's a lot of plants in here that will attract butterflies.
And that's what we've enjoyed, the variety of butterflies that do come through.
You've got phlox.
Phlox have been here for a long, long time, and when I thinned it out to move Joe Pie because he was growing too tall, this one's a volunteer. I have some others that I did move out of the bed, now in the back of the bed. And Queen of the Prairie, which is what you see,
Yeah.
the tall plant, I don't have its formal name, it takes over a garden. So I had to pull and pull and pull a bunch of it out in order to put some new things in.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love Queen of the Prairie.
I do too, and
Yep.
mine just started to bloom.
Oh, okay.
You get a reflected heat from
Right.
the blacktop in front of your house here.
Right.
But I love Queen of the Prairie. My mother called it astable,
Oh, vegetable, okay.
and that's not what it is.
No, and I have another name somewhere.
It's Pendula is
That's
the Latin
probably
name.
true.
Yeah.
Okay. Should have taken Latin, then I would have been smarter. But
Oh, when you're dealing with plants and people keep using the Latin name, eventually you pick it up.
Okay.
Because I'm surprised I even remembered it the way my memory is.
Oh goodness.
And yeah, this is some beautiful cone flowers down here too.
Right. Coneflowers, a couple of lilies, daylilies over there, and then I did at one time have a lot of Asiatic lilies, and I had thought I'd move them all, and this little guy decided to grow and bloom, and
Beautiful.
you work in the garden and you smell it and you just want to stay and go, oh, this is wonderful.
That's the way I feel when I'm
Mhm.
weeding out in my acreage
Yep.
and there's violets in bloom.
Oh, there
I
you
love
go.
that.
Yep.
And the wind just kind of drifts toward you.
Yes, it does.
Oh, you want to take a pan shot of the landscape in front of the house, Dave? Got some beautiful, beautiful evergreen shrubs up there that are gold.
The gold are, let me see, King Gold Cypress. And then behind it, the mounds are called let me see, what is it? Mr. Bowling Ball Arborvitae. And
I
we
never
bought-
heard of that.
No, we bought them because of the round shape. We didn't want to do standard flat, bushy kind of shrubs. So we put those
Well, I
there.
think that's beautiful.
It's a lot of fun to watch them grow and stay that shape. That's been 3 years, and so they've been pretty well under control in the
Oh.
back.
Okay, now the smoke bush that's on that side,
Right.
is that's one of the older ones, isn't it?
That was
Before
the-
they started coming out with the purple leaf ones?
Well, that one's still, that's kind of purple green, but that was the first one we put in, and then we put this purple one in later to just kind of protect the front of the house, give us a little more privacy.
Yeah.
And it already has bloomed, so that one's
Right.
doing its thing later.
Mine doesn't bloom like the older varieties
Oh,
do.
okay.
Okay, let's go around to the backyard. And of
Okay.
course, we stop at the delphinium. That
And-
was my mother's favorite flower.
Oh, well, and delphiniums we love to put right here. It gets a lot of sun. We protect them a little bit, have to stake them up. But the deep blue and the orange marigolds go well together because my husband is a Chicago Bears fan, and the dark blue and purple are dark blue and orange, rather, are Chicago Bear colors. So, and they're beautiful. I love the way they grow.
Yes.
It is.
Okay, let's traipse on into the backyard.
Do I have to say anything about the
Well, are these any of these the cherry type tomatoes?
These are all a variety of cherry type tomatoes. They grow faster and are riper than waiting for the larger tomatoes, celebrities and Jetstar and all of that. So what we love about them is putting them in pots makes them easily accessible. And my husband and I kind of tangle over who's going to get the first red cherry. And we have a couple now, and we've been watching the reddest ones, so it'll be interesting to see which one of us gobbles it up. But this is a great place. It gets lots of extra heat during the summer off the wall, and we can control any of the blight and stuff that's on the bottom.
Okay. Continuing on, this is a river birch.
A river birch. We had a company come in and do some basic landscaping for us and grade the yard and put in a couple of terraces. And I've never had one of these in our yards. What I love about it is the interesting trunk, but also the fact that it's a very light, airy tree.
It is.
And the leaves are small. They're not an issue when it comes to fall. And the birds seem to love it. They can sit all over and sing and do whatever. And it doesn't overshade anything down here.
This is getting ready to bloom.
Yes, it is. Rudbeckia decided to volunteer in the middle of the spurge.
Oh, it's a. Oh, I didn't look at the foliage. I was
Yep.
just looking at the flower. Yeah.
So I figured as long as he's hanging in there, I'll let him stay.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot of volunteers.
Well, I think from this angle, Dave's going to be able to get some long shots, and he can zero in on them too. Do you call that Japanese silvergrass that's growing along the?
The side yard?
Yeah.
We could not find the official tags from those. We looked up the tall grass, which will eventually, in September, put up its plumes, and that's called great grass or giant grass. It just grows really, really tall, and if conditions are right, we will get the plumes at the top. And the rest are just, there's zebra grass in there and a couple of others mixed
Oh yeah.
in.
I didn't see the zebra grass.
Everything grew a lot larger than we ever thought it would. So
Well, Emily certainly planned for her garden
She
for it to
did,
grow, and
right.
I'm anxious to get that in view of for
Right.
the people that
Right.
watch,
Yep.
and the people that come on garden
Sure.
tour.
Yep.
We got so many flowers down in here. I see black-eyed Susans, I see daylilies, and Shasta daisies. The last garden that we saw, her Shasta daisies were shot.
Oh no, this was perfect timing for
Yeah,
the daisies
It's
coming up.
beautiful. Hanging baskets and little garden art from here, and then the red Japanese maple.
Right.
That's,
We've enjoyed putting that one in.
well, I don't know if we should. Maybe we should go down there. I know he can zoom in on them, on your hostas in the corner
Oh, okay.
where
sure.
you lost your shade, or
Right.
most. That's beautiful. It's such a. From a distance, it's such an outstanding thing to see,
Right.
and you see the different colors of the foliage.
Right.
You don't have to have them in bloom.
No.
You know, they're beautiful.
Well, and personally, I like just the leaves of the hostas. I know the bloom is nice. The deer seem to make a path through here, and I'm very thankful that the deer didn't eat the leaves, but they're eating some of the bloom. And I guess if that's a little treat for them, I'm okay with it. But this was a very shaded area before we had someone come in and move the redbud tree farther into the yard and then put the hostas under it. And actually, the hostas along the back were not there originally. They were out in front under a great big maple that had to come down.
Oh.
And then it was full sun, we had to find a place to put hostas as big as they were going to be. They weren't that big at the time. So that has transitioned in the back from just the chain link fence to a little bit of the picket fence, and
Yeah, that picket fence is an outstanding background.
it was a great idea. My husband did a good thing and we checked with the neighbor and let them know that we weren't trying to, obliterate his view or anything, but
You were
he was
accenting
okay.
your garden.
Yes, he was
Come
okay.
over anytime.
Right, right. And we talked to them and everything. So shorter growing kind of yellowish plant on the ground, that's oregano. That's a form of oregano.
Oh.
And I just left it there because the color is great and I can go and grab a few little leaves out of it. But we have elegans, we have Empress Wu, Sun and Substance, and then the guacamole. And the only thing that harmed it this year was the hail that came through. So now I have
Right.
holy hostas.
Oh. Do we have to genuflect before
Yeah.
we leave the
Now I think they're fine with it. They got over it.
Okay, now let's go to the other side. You see you have a baby crib back there with a chair sitting next for the mother to sit
Yeah.
next to the baby.
We thought if the weather was okay, we'd put a couple of Disney characters sitting
Oh,
there. We've
that'd
got a
be
great
cute.
big Goofy and
That'd be
a
cute.
Minnie Mouse. But that came from Habitat for Humanity. Sat in my backyard behind the trees for a couple of years, and then once this got finished, decided that would be pretty, and it looks a lot better in yellow because it stands out. And the chair also came from Habitat.
I guess I'm going to have to stop and shop there.
Well, it was one of those deals where I don't usually go and shop. I happened to be there, and we gave them a donation. They didn't even ask for a specific price, so that was really awesome. So
And you have a place to burn down
yes,
here.
we have a fire pit. That'll happen later on when it gets cool again.
And I love this daylily that's right in front
Right,
here.
the daylilies. Everybody in this garden seems to just love it. And the phlox, I just had a lot of them, so when we transitioned into this particular design, I put some in, bought some more, and I've been really happy because they seem to get a lot of air movement around them, and that helps them to eliminate a little bit of the mildew problem that they have.
I don't know if you can get that daylily down there. It's behind the red Japanese maple, but that's a pretty one too. They're really nice specimen ones. Let's see. And I think this grass is morning light.
Yes, it is. And that's about 3 years old. It was actually put in quart size. I thought I was doing a great big deal with finding it because that was suggested for us. And 3 years later, when it looks like that, you'd never know that it started out in a small little container. And it's beautiful, and in the fall, the birds come up on the plumes, and the goldfinch and some of the other guys, and they'll be swaying as they're trying to pick off seeds from the blooms.
I watched a hummingbird trying to light on a leaf that was wet and it was going to drink, and it kept sliding off. I wished I'd had Dave in his camera.
Right, right.
Oh, we got lots of coleus.
These coleus we tried a couple of years ago, and they're not the Kong, but they're made for sun, and it's been amazing. This is 100% full sun, hot sun, and they love it. They absolutely love it. So we figured that was easy care. We pinched them a little bit so that they stay bushier.
I'm glad to know that you're doing that.
Yep.
Every time I go into a garden that isn't pinched, it's just all I can
Right.
do to not
To not
bend over and pinch them.
Right, nope.
And then, of course, the rescued tricolor beech.
Right. That came from the back of the woods, which at the time when we put it in was the perfect spot. But then evergreen trees and other plants overgrowing it, when we did some yard work, had a company also move this tree, and it had already started growing toward the sun in the back garden. So when we put this one in, we knew we'd have to work on slowly getting the top of it to come closer into the sun. So it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I love that tree. I really do.
Now, let's see, I don't let me miss any of the specimen trees
Okay.
because I know you've got several. And coral bells,
Coral bells, and these guys I have to keep watered when it's 90 some degrees. They get a little uncomfortable, but it's been a good spot for all of them. And depending on what the heat is, kind of changes their color a little bit. And then I have a volunteer tomato plant in there, so
Oh.
I'm just going to let him grow for a little while.
see if you,
See if I can get a tomato out of him.
when it gets blossoms on, go down and tip the stem
Right,
because that's how they pollinate, through the air.
right, yep.
I remember seeing them do it in a greenhouse once.
Oh, there you
They
go.
had something that vibrated,
Oh, okay.
and they were
shook the-
just
Yep. That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember that.
Oof.
Oh, boof, boof. I see you. Okay.
Oh, there's a butterfly bush back there. Butterflies would.
This is another spot. We've seen hummingbirds come through and stop here. They stop at a couple of other places. So it's been fun to watch the butterflies and the hummingbirds come around.
I haven't seen many this year.
What's that?
Hummingbirds.
Oh, okay.
Usually, I see.
I've seen a couple actually down in the other garden.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my neighborhood.
Okay, Dave. Let's move to the other side. The path into the woods.
That's where we take the lawnmower and we go around and all of our grass clippings and other garden things we can run and hide in the back, which is one of the benefits of having a great big wooded area.
Okay.
And that's just my kind of my nursery of extra hostas.
Well,
So
it looks pretty.
it does. So if anybody needs hostas or I need to put one somewhere else, we go there.
Is this a dogwood?
This is a dogwood, and it's been here a number of years. And it was it's a white dogwood, so it was beautiful this year. Sometimes the year isn't as good as another year, but it was beautiful this year with beautiful white blooms.
Yeah, up in the Allegan area where they have them in the forest. I guess they lost a lot of them to the disease that was going through. I think I lost one.
Well, and we're concerned with the leaves, and so we're just kind of watching year to year what happens.
Yep.
But this one doesn't look too bad.
It's got a fungus type thing. Fungicide should take that away
Right.
if you can get all the way up there.
I know, yeah. We've done that off and on over the years, so it's hanging in there.
Yeah, it is. Looking good. And a chair not to sit in.
Nope. That one came from a garage sale years ago, so it was sitting in the back behind the shed, and I said, let's just pull it out and we'll just make it look like that's where it should have been for a long time. And then this is a red twig dogwood.
And that's blooming.
Yes, it is. It was a transplant out of my daughter's yard, so just this year. So we've been watering it, and it didn't take long for it to adjust. It's been fun. And then we also have the grasses in the back that came from a friend.
And that's morning light too, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. And we love to watch the robins come along and take baths in the bird bath.
Okay, we've got some beautiful flower beds that we've got to get to. Oh boy, look at all this. Wow.
Well, this space, we call it our kidney bed, and it was the original garden space that my family had put in back in the mid-90s. And it started out as a rose garden, and it was beautiful, but as the trees, which are not here any longer, started overgrowing it, we realized we were losing our sun. So we moved the roses to another bed and slowly began to put in perennials.
Yeah,
And
these
trees
are-
have been down and everything.
These are all things that will attract butterflies.
Oh, I love it. And I love the smell of the Asiatic lilies,
I
the
love that, too.
phlox, the coneflowers. Looking out the window of our back room, this is just one of my favorite spots. The orange butterfly weed plant was a transplant from another bed, and it has decided to take over a couple of other spots. We have another one there. I have one in another bed, but the butterflies love it.
Well, you must have dug really deep to transplant those.
Well, I didn't dig deep enough because the same plant keeps coming up year after year among the rose bushes in another part of the yard.
Oh,
So,
yeah, a lot of people dig them from the side of the road
ah,
and think that they can put them in their garden, but the soil isn't conducive to using a shovel
oh, okay.
along the road. It's
Right,
really
no,
packed down,
right.
and somebody brought me some once, and I said, I don't want them. They're going to die.
Oh,
And
okay.
they did.
They did. No, these guys like it here, and I guess maybe wherever they were growing was good for them too. So they're pretty good. That's okay.
Oh, your morning glories in bloom on the birdhouse.
Well, I was trying to figure out a way to just disguise the long posts. We love having the birdhouses around, and they need to be a little higher so that animals can't. We've already had a cat or something come and attack baby birds out of one of the houses. So, but regardless of that, I thought maybe a morning glory coming up the post would kind of disguise it and also make it look a little more interesting. And so far, they're doing pretty well. All you do is just kind of wrap it around, get it started, and it keeps growing.
Oh, here's another butterfly bush.
These three have been here a while. I cut
Sure.
them back to about 1 foot each all the way around. And from 1 foot in the spring, we have these beauties right now.
Yeah, that's interesting about the butterfly bush
It
that
is.
it blooms on new wood.
Right, yep. And people are just amazed. And I said, yep, it was one little bit and everything else.
Yeah, I think we got one more up the hill here. And that is that evergreen there? Is that a
We bought it from a gentleman on Beckley that sold his trees and also Christmas trees. And so we don't have the sticker from that many years ago, but we believe it's a Douglas fir. It has the longest, softest needles and has absolutely not had...
the Latin name is concolor. What is it that we call it?
It's absolutely...
The foliage smells like citrus. You have to break a needle or something.
But it's beautiful. We've lost several blue spruce trees over the years, which is why the yard has changed. But the birds love it. They can hide in there. It's my favorite evergreen.
Yeah,
right now.
it's one of my favorites, and it's going to last nicely for a
Right.
lot longer than the blue
The
spruce.
blue spruce. And the blue spruce is pretty. It's got
Yeah,
its own
people should
features.
buy the concolor.
Yep, it's beautiful.
One that I'll remember the rest of the name later.
It's okay. And we put in a couple of hemlocks so that it was just a little different kind of tree.
See all the different colors of foliage in there? You got the blue on the concolor, and then
Weigela,
Weigela,
Weigela, yep.
and
Wine and Roses is that particular
yeah.
species.
And then you need to find some roses in here.
Right, I should.
So it has
Wine
wine and
and
a
roses.
bottle of wine.
There you go. Could use that.
Well, you know, I see most all of your beds attract nice creatures to your
yes.
garden.
Butterflies are all over, and bees. I think that's also the other.
Oh,
fun
that's
thing.
important too.
Yep.
I got real excited when I saw the first bee this spring.
Yes, I know. I love the bees. So this is a mixture of coneflowers, Shasta daisies, and phlox, and then in the back I have some Joe Pye weed.
And the grass is
Grass is-
Calabagrostis Carl Forrester.
Carl Forrester.
Yep.
And then the lilacs are, I think this is their 3rd year, and those are called Pocahontas.
Oh,
So they put out quite a few blooms. So I'm anxious to see as the years go by.
okay. Let's just stand over there.
Everybody says thank you to the flowers, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, this is beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much for letting us come today and for
welcome.
opening your garden for the people in the city to come and see it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hope we have a good turnout. If
Well,
it's
it'll be fun. And there's a little bit of shade too, so you're not walking just in the full sun.
right, and you can see things from a distance too,
Sure.
without having to go into out of the shade.
If you
Right.
would like
No,
to
that's
become a
true.
master gardener, call 969-0270, extension 116. If you have questions or suggestions about this show, call 963-1448.
AccessVision. Your voice, your community.